Welcome to the Poor Man's Retro Game Room, and today we are counting down my top 5 favorite Atari Jaguar games of all time. You might have missed out on some of these games if you were a Jaguar owner. You may have never even played an Atari Jaguar, but it might surprise you how many good games there are for the system. So without further ado, let's get started with number 5. Number 5, in my opinion, is a hidden gem, an overlooked game, not very talked about, but is my favorite racing game on the Atari Jaguar, and it's a beautiful game, it's a fantastic game, and that is Super Burnout.
Ready, set, go!
Super Burnout was developed by Shin Technologies and published by Atari Corporation. It was released in 1995. Of course, it's a great pseudo 3D sprite scaling motorcycle racer, and it is just beautiful. You can tell. I mean, the graphics are just amazing on this game. It is really like playing an arcade game at home. You have 7 different bikes to choose from. Each of those bikes are going to have different qualities about them. Some of them grip the road better, some of them are faster, some of them speed up faster, accelerate faster, and of course different top speeds and so forth. There's several different tracks that you can race in, and one of the really cool things about this game is there's some tracks where as you race over time you'll see the sun actually going down, you'll see the track and your environment getting darker, and then your headlights come on. And it's kind of a transition from day to night. Very, very cool. This game is really amazing. It's polished. It's just one of the best games on the Atari Jaguar. So sitting at number 5, Super Burnout for the Atari Jaguar. If you get a chance to play this game, I highly recommend it. And I almost forgot to say that it has one of the best soundtracks on the system as well. So Super Burnout. Number 4 was pretty tough. I love this game, and I always thought that it would be higher on my list. But there's a few things that kind of keep it down towards number 4 on the list. And some of the things in the game haven't aged well. The frame rate's kind of choppy, but I'll tell you what, it's still one of my all-time favorite games, and that is Alien vs. Predator. And you can only play this game on the Atari Jaguar.
Introducing Alien vs. Predator for the 64-bit Atari Jaguar. You might not want to play it alone.
Ah!
Mom.
Right when you boot this game up, you start by hearing a heartbeat, and then the intro music. There's not probably a whole lot that I can say about Alien vs. Predator that I haven't said before on this channel, but it is one of my favorite games of all time. I have such fond memories of this game. It's so true to the Alien vs. Predator franchise. You know, there's 3 different characters that you can pick from. All of them have different abilities, different skills, and some of them are easier than others. The soldier, the human soldier, of course, is the hardest one. Such a great game, though. I mean, honestly, when you're playing this game, you got to turn your lights off. You got to, you know, really get into it and play it. And I'll guarantee you there'll be at least 1 or 2 times that you just kind of get a jump scare. And there's no music in this game. A lot of people, you know, think that that's a bad thing. I don't think so at all. This fits this game perfectly. You hear the hum of the machinery, and it just makes it a creepier feel. And I really think that this is more of a survival game than it is a first-person shooter, if that makes any sense. You've got to, find ammo. You can find food. You have to get into the air ducts to move around in the ship, and there's also an elevator. It's the things that didn't age very well is the frame rate. The frame rate is it can get pretty choppy. It can get down to like 15 frames per second, and just the sheer scale of the game as far as being in like a maze and working your way through those mazes, finding different key cards and stuff like that. It's not easy, I will tell you that. But you do get a map, you get some hints from the computers that you can check out, and you can actually get a layout of the floor that you're on as well. This is a fantastic game. If you own a Jaguar, you've got to play Alien versus Predator, at least just to have that experience. This was only playable, of course, on the Atari Jaguar. I love this game, and I highly recommend it. And number 3 on my list of my top 5 favorite Atari Jaguar games is Tempest 2000. Tempest 2000 is a remake of the 1981 arcade game Tempest, which used Atari's Quadrascan vector color display technology. Oh yeah, vector graphics, that's right. Vector graphics on a 64-bit machine. When I saw screenshots of this and just kind of heard about, the game over the years, I just thought, I dismissed it, and I just thought, it's not going to be for me. I was never a big fan of the 1981 game Tempest in the arcades. But then I started, really getting into collecting for the Jaguar, and I had a chance to trade my buddy Ryan over at the 123 Gamerman for this game. And I got it, and I'm like, let's give it a try. So I popped it in and started playing it, and man, I couldn't stop. It hooked me. This game is just so much fun to play. The music rocks. The soundtrack is amazing. And I'm not completely sure if the CD, there was at least part of the games, or some of the games came with a CD of the soundtrack, and I mean, it's awesome. The music in this game sounds like it's playing from a CD. It's incredible. And just the gameplay it's just amazing. It's sheer bliss playing this game. Awesome game. If you own an Atari Jaguar, man, you got to play Tempest 2000, right? So yeah, absolutely. I highly recommend Tempest 2000. Awesome game, and an awesome part of owning an Atari Jaguar is being able to play this game. Almost there. Number 2 on my list is, of course, Doom for the Atari Jaguar.
Hell is a dark prison filled with lost souls and demons. And how do you escape this damnation? Blast the pink demon right between their beating and lies. Doom for the 64-bit Jaguar.
I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Doom for the Jaguar because I've covered it before on this channel. I'm just going to give you my experience playing it. A couple of the reasons why I think it's one of the very best ports of Doom for a home console, especially a retro console. But yeah, I went into a store that actually sold Atari Jaguar games. I found a store, it was in Greeley, Colorado. So we drove all the way up there, and I was, looking for an Atari Jaguar game, and the guy behind the counter says, well, this is one of them that's just been selling like crazy. And it probably wasn't selling like crazy. He probably sold 3 copies as opposed to one with another one, But anyways, he said, I recommend Doom. Really cool game. And I looked at the screenshots on the back. I wasn't really sold yet. got it all the way home, plugged it in, and played it, and it was my very first experience playing a first-person shooter. So it blew me away. Of course, I stayed up all night that night playing. There's only one way to really play Doom, and that is it's kind of like Alien vs. Predator, man. Turn your lights off. Play it late at night. And it just enhances the experience. But some of the cool things about this version of Doom is that you don't have to cycle through your weapons, your controller. The Atari Jaguar is made perfectly for this game. You can just hit one button to choose whatever weapon you want. The overlay is awesome. There's monster infighting. The backs of the monsters are animated, so you can actually sneak up behind a monster and start shooting them. And of course, this port was used for several other ports to several other home consoles. The 32X version, the PlayStation version, and so forth. So anyway, it's one of the greatest games on the Atari Jaguar. At number 2, Doom. And number 1 on my list of top 5 favorite Atari Jaguar games of all time is a game that not a lot of people have played, at least on the Jaguar. A lot of people are very familiar with this game on the PlayStation, and the Saturn had a port as well. Those ports came after the Jaguar, and after the Jaguar was pretty much done. But it first came out, and it was going to be a system exclusive at the time. It's an incredible game. To believe this was on a cartridge, to play it on a Jaguar and just take in all the colors, everything. It really did show what the Jaguar was capable of, at least for developers who knew what they were doing. And that is Rayman. Playing Rayman on the Atari Jaguar is so cool. When do you think about Ubisoft making a cartridge game for the Atari Jaguar nonetheless? And that game being Rayman. When a lot of people think about Rayman, they think of the PlayStation 1, the PS1 version. Which, this type of game and the care put into it and the developers knowing what they're doing, it really shows what the Atari Jaguar could have done with 2D games. It was outstanding for 2D games. There wasn't enough of them, unfortunately, on the Jaguar, and everything was 3D at that time in video gaming history. And Atari wanted to be kind of the first one to use those 3D graphics, and the Jaguar, it could handle them, but there were some 3D graphics that it really struggled with. Well, the 2D games, it didn't struggle with at all. The colors are amazing in this game, just awesome. If you just glanced at it and the PlayStation version, you're probably not going to notice much of a difference. There are subtle differences, of course, in the sound and different sound effects, and the backgrounds are different, and sometimes they're even backgrounds that were used in the PS1 game, but they're in different stages, so it's kind of weird that way. But it's just so cool to play Rayman on a cartridge on the Atari Jaguar. It's awesome. And it just kind of really shows you what could have been. But, I'm really confident in my number 1 pick being Rayman. I haven't had it as long as my other Atari Jaguar games, but I've been playing it a lot. It's just so much fun. I can, highly recommend any Atari Jaguar owner playing Rayman any way they can on the Jaguar. So, at number 1, Rayman. Hey, thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. If you like this content, don't be afraid to either give it a like or sub to the channel if you're not subbed. The Atari Jaguar was a very, very interesting system, and it's very historic for me personally, because I do remember having it. I remember getting mocked for owning it, and I remember the PC snobs at work saying, "Oh man, Doom on the Jaguar? There's no way. It's not near as good as the PC. Well, they might have been a little bit right, but I couldn't afford a PC back then.
Why would I buy a 32-bit system for $300 when I can get a 64-bit Jaguar system for $149?
What I could afford was the Atari Jaguar. I love the system. There was some really great games that never got the love that they deserved, just because the system wasn't a success. Atari's last console, in my opinion, the real Atari's last console, you know, it's unfortunate, but I do love it, and I absolutely love collecting for it, and I love playing it. It's awesome. So, alright, well, I hope you guys have a great and safe rest of your day.
Jaguar! Jaguar! Jaguar!